There are people who never learn. Then there are some who are really smart and learn from other people's mistakes. In this video, I'm going to share with you someone who took my recommendations and acted on my suggestions on leveling up his video production. I'm also going to share with you some tips on improving your audio and video production whenever you have to appear in front of your webcam or whatever setup that you have. So my name is John Lin. I've been producing content for different platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, etc. for quite a few years. And I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned so that you can appear the best and sound the most awesome in front of a camera. Let's get right into it. Dr. Kuang, he's a fellow urologist who practices in New Mexico. He tagged me in a LinkedIn post about a couple of hours ago, and this is what it looks like. Dr. Kuang apparently produced a series of 40-plus patient videos and 30-plus urologist videos on BPH, how he's waging a crusade to save the bladder, especially for men. So he's waging a war on this issue of enlarged prostate, also known as BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia. So he made this post a couple of hours ago and he tagged me and he said, advice on soundproofing, hopefully the double wide sleeping bag hanging from the rafters and random stuff on the floor helped. So we have been kind of collaborating. He's appeared in videos that I made and I've appeared in his videos. And we're constantly thinking about how do we improve our video production. And one of the suggestions that I had for him when he was making his past videos was you want to dampen the sound in whatever recording environment that you're in. For instance, if you notice over on this side over here, that's actually a sound absorbing panel that I have throughout this entire space. And the ceiling is a kind of a push-up ceiling, so it decreases the sound bouncing off these hard surfaces and reflecting back into the microphone. And that was the suggestions that I made for him. And I'm going to share with you his wide shot of the studio that he created. So this is what it looks like. On the right-hand side and towards the top on the right-hand side, you'll notice the large cloth-like things. They're actually sleeping bags. And on the floor, you may notice some sort of a cloth. He has hard floors. This looks like his office, and he's got a hard wall behind him and to the left side away from the camera. So those are hard surfaces, and those hard surfaces bounce sound, and sound travels in waves, kind of like light. Sound travels in waves, and when it hits a hard surface, it wants to bounce back to the microphone, and you hear the reverberation or echoey like sound, if you will. If you listen carefully to a lot of the videos out there, the echoey sound, once you hear the reverb, once you hear it, you can't unhear it, and it sounds horrible in my opinion. You want to sound present. You want to sound like you are right in front of the person watching your videos. And what he has done is he dampened the sound, the reverb, by using the cloth on the floor and also sleeping bags in front of him. So when he is speaking away towards the camera and away from his mouth, the sound is bouncing, not able to bounce back towards the microphone, except instead it's absorbed by the sleeping bags and also by the cloth that he has on the floor. And I took a phone call from a sales rep, who is thinking about starting her podcast. And we talked about this exact thing, sound dampening. And I told her that if you only want to record audio and you only want to do podcasts, one of the best places for you to record that audio is actually in your closet. So think about the closet, right? It's full of clothes. And what do? The clothes absorb the sound and prevents it from bouncing back into the microphone, causing unwanted reverberation that is picked up by the microphone. So the other thing that Dr. Kuang has going for him is in this picture is that he has a microphone stand. And I know through our conversations that stand is actually used to place the microphone close to him. Now, there are different microphones that you can use you can get really down deep into the weeds, into the type of microphone. You can have a boom microphone. You can have a condenser microphone. You can have a ribbon microphone. You can have a dynamic microphone. You can have microphones placed close to you, far away from you, different pickup patterns. But you don't have to worry too much about all those details. There are very inexpensive options out there. And Dr. Kuang used, I believe he has a wireless type of a lavalier mic set up, as well as a microphone on the stand, depending on the use case. But microphone positioning is actually really, really important. In addition to the sound, the room, the treatment that you have done to the room, the sound treatment. So the environment in which you're recording the audio is important. So treat the room, meaning put clothes, lay stuff down on the hard surfaces so that it doesn't echo right back into the microphone. Some sound absorbing, if you want to spend the money, you can buy sound absorbing panels or sound absorbing pads. But carpeting on the floors also helps. Do something to decrease the reverb. And number two, most of the microphones out there are pretty darn good. An inexpensive option that can help you as you grow is something called Samson Q2u. It's like $55 or something like that. It takes an XLR input, as well as it will output to an USB. So if you start with the USB and you want and eventually graduate to an XLR, which is a professional type of an output, then you can grow. That microphone will be able to grow with you. It is inexpensive and it works really, really well. What is more important, I think, than the microphone, the type of microphone that you use, if you buy any quality microphone, you're probably going to sound pretty darn good. What I think what is more important than the microphone that you use is the microphone technique. The microphone technique. So number one, you need to know what type of microphone that you purchased. If you picked up a dynamic microphone, you need to understand the pickup pattern of the dynamic microphone. One of the microphones that I have, which is a dynamic microphone, I can set it to pick up in front of the microphone, to pick up in front and behind the microphone, or pick up all around the microphone. So knowing where the pickup pattern is really important, no matter what type of microphone that you use. On the other hand, for this particular microphone, I'm sorry, this is a dynamic microphone. I was talking about the condenser microphone in the previous example. This is a dynamic microphone. You also want to know about the pickup pattern of the dynamic microphone. The dynamic of this particular microphone is a Shure SM7B. You don't need to spend all this money on expensive microphones like this. $55 microphone, most people are not going to be able to hear the difference until you start making a lot of content and you become really critical. Then you may want to consider spending $400 on a microphone. And then this comes with the fact that you may need a cloud lifter or a FET head to boost the microphone signal, because this is a very quiet microphone. And then you have to worry about an audio interface or a mixer, which I have right here in front of me. So you don't need to necessarily use this. Very importantly, you want to use the appropriate microphone technique. A lot of people will think, well, I want the microphone right in front of me, like this way. No, you don't necessarily want to have it right in front of you like this. If you notice, this microphone is kind of off to the side. It's actually pointing it at my mouth about a 45-degree angle from the horizontal and also from the side. So it's not, this microphone is not directly in front of me. Why? Because if I were to say words that contain a puff of air, for instance, if I say Peter Piper picked a pickled pepper, you're not picking up the puh. They're called plosives. Those are irritating to the listener's ears. You want to avoid plosives. And that's why you see a lot of people using those round things in front of the microphones. With proper microphone technique, you don't even need those things. Those things are unsightly. They get in the way. You accidentally bump into it. And if you're speaking directly into the microphone, then you may end up picking up some of the plosives, despite having the windsock and the sound filtering that you're doing. Instead of using that, if you place the microphone appropriately, not directly in front of your mouth, but off to the side and at an angle, you avoid some of the plosives. So here's an example, right? I'll say, Peter Piper picked a pickled pepper using this technique versus speaking directly into the microphone. Peter Piper picked a pickled pepper, right? So you picked it picked up the p, which is irritating to the ears. So appropriate mic positioning is really important. In addition to picking up a quality microphone, you don't need to spend a lot of money, but picking up a quality microphone, not the microphone that is attached to your earbud. In a pinch, yes, they work. And definitely not the built-in microphone to your webcam or the microphone that is attached to your notebook computer that you're using. So enough about audio. Appropriate technique, sound dampening, and knowing how the microphone works. There are some of the tips that I have for you. Okay, let's talk about video. And here's Dr. Kuang's setup when it comes to video. This is actually on a table that it looks like an adjustable height table. It is raised. If you look on this picture on the right-hand side, that's where the table is. It's much, much higher than the height of the normal table on the left side of that table. So close-up view of his production setup here. If you notice, the table's already high, and he has a camera on top of some boxes. So he's basically raising this camera to his eye level. And that's what I have set up right here. My camera right here is actually slightly lower than eye level, but essentially at eye level. You don't want the camera to point up towards your nose, because who wants to see your nose? And whatever the lens is closest to is going to accentuate it, meaning my chin will be bigger if the camera were to be looking up towards me. My nose will be bigger. You don't want that type of a look. When you are setting up a video, your camera, you want to prop up your webcam, your notebook computer, so that the camera is at eye level or slightly below eye level, but definitely not way, way too low. That's mistake number one that some people make. And let's take a look at the setup right here. He's got it on a steady surface. He's got it on a tripod, and he is also using, looks like a Canon M50, and the lens, if you actually zoom into it, the lens is not the typical kit zoom lens. It looks like a fixed focal length lens, which I bet has a large aperture opening, probably an f 2.8 or maybe a 1.8 or something like that, which allows the camera to capture images with a shallow depth of field. You know, the background is kind of blurred out and the face is in focus, that type of look. It's a great blogging camera. It looks like he has a cage attached to the camera as well. And he has his monitor set up so that he can refer to the notes without having to take his eyes too far off of the camera lens. When I'm talking to the camera, when I'm talking to the audience, I want to be looking at the camera, which is very unnatural. It definitely takes practice. Looking at a camera, you want to imagine that you're talking to your friend. Imagine the camera is the face of your friend that you're talking to, and just simply have a conversation with that camera lens. It takes practice. It's unusual. It's not typical. So just something that they think about. Camera height, and maybe using a camera that is dedicated for video production, picking a lens, and last thing we're going to talk about is lighting. But the camera is set up with the appropriate height, and this particular camera has a flip-out screen that you see just to the right of that camera, and that it serves as a confidence monitor so that you know what the camera is showing. And to the right side of the table, laying horizontally, looks like he has a monitor that is a little bit bigger that could serve as a confidence monitor. Maybe he is not using it because if he has that attached to the cage around the camera, it may obstruct the view of the screen behind him, and he may use that as a note taking screen or a note capturing screen to remind him of what to cover in whatever video that he is producing. So nice setup here, and looks like a MacBook Air on the left side. He's probably recording directly into MacBook Air, or maybe directly recording into the camera and then exporting that elsewhere for later production, editing of the video as a final product. So let's talk about, lastly, lighting. Let's talk about lighting last. So you have various different lighting techniques, and one of the most important things for one of the most common mistakes, if you will, is that people light behind them, meaning they like to stand or set up their camera with the camera in front of you and then the window behind you. Well, what does that do, right? The camera is going, the light is going into the camera lens, but what is dark? This is dark. The face, your face is dark. You don't want to do that. You want to flip things around. You want the camera sitting with the window or the light source behind the camera, not in front of the camera. That way, the face is seen. When you are creating a video, you need to connect with your audience. And how do you make that connection? Other than the words and then the body language, you connect with your audience by looking at the audience. I'm using my eyes to look at the audience. And you won't be able to see my eyes without proper lighting. That's why I have two lights in front of me. In addition, I have a hair light behind me. That thing up there, casting a small amount of light on my hair and also on my shoulders to kind of make the subject stand out, make me stand out a little bit in front of the video shot. You can have it, you can not have it, but make sure that you're lighting your face. That is one of the most common mistakes that I see whenever I see webinars and whenever I see videos. You need to light your face so people can see you, people can connect with you. All right. So this is the lighting setup that he has. Looks like he has a ring light and maybe a big reflector over on the side that he currently doesn't have a setup to use. But it's a large light source that he has right next to the camera so that it is lighting his face. So lighting is also important. You got the sound, you got the camera, you got the light, and you want to have a pretty clean background so that the audience is not distracted with too much stuff in the background, because, you know, the eyes wander and you're always checking out. I'm always checking out what's in the background. It's something that I do. I guess that's just the way that I'm made. I'm looking whenever I'm watching a football game and I see the camera pan towards the sidelines, the player is running along the sidelines. I'm not looking at the player. I'm actually looking at what's behind the player at the sidelines. Who's at the sideline? What are they doing? What kind of cameras are they using? What kind of disc are they? Who's holding the disc? And what are they doing? How are they positioning themselves? You know, I guess I'm just kind of a camera, lighting, audio kind of a geek. And I certainly envy those people who photograph those professional games, because those stadiums are lit for video. So they're really, really bright. And I photograph high school football, typically Friday nights, and the lighting there always suck. So anyway, some suggestions about video, audio, and lighting. So next time you get in front of a camera, when you are in a Zoom meeting, Teams meeting, etc., you can look your best and sound your best. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear from you, and I'm not seeing any. And if you enjoyed this type of content, certainly give me a like, thumbs up, subscribe, etc., whatever you want to do. All right. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and thank you for the privilege of your time. Bye-bye.